You think you're a great dog owner. You buy the premium 6-layer kibble with the beautiful picture of a wolf on the front. You spend $80 on those sleek, elevated stainless steel feeding bowls because some self-proclaimed internet trainer told you it protects their joints and improves their posture. You feed him his dinner, you let him run out into the backyard to chase a ball, and you sit back thinking you're giving him a luxury life. But right now, as you sit there watching this, you are actively participating in a lethal routine that could kill your German Shepherd by midnight. No warnings, no long, drawn-out sickness, just a normal, quiet evening where your dog eats his dinner and 2 hours later, he is suffocating to death on your living room rug while his own stomach literally strangles his internal organs from the inside out. It's called bloat, or gastric dilation-volvulus. It is the #2 killer of German Shepherds worldwide, second only to cancer. But let's stop calling it an unpredictable medical mystery. Let's call it what it actually is, a product of corporate hypocrisy, commercial greed, and collective ignorance. The pet food giants won't put a warning label on the bag because their cheap grain-stuffed formulas are the perfect biochemical triggers for it. The high-end pet boutiques won't stop selling those stylish, elevated bowls because they're a multi-million-dollar marketing scam that literally doubles the risk of your dog dying. And your local emergency vet? They'll happily cash your $8,000 surgery check at 2 in the morning after the damage is already done, rather than calling out the industry practices causing it. Today, we are stripping away the polite, sanitized nonsense you read on basic pet blogs. We are launching a direct attack on the myths, the fake products, and the innocent daily habits that are turning your deep-chested dog into a biological ticking bomb. If you have thin skin, turn this off right now. But if you actually have the spine to face the raw truth about what's happening inside your dog's gut, listen to every single word of what's coming. Let's dismantle the biggest corporate lie first, the food inside your dog's bowl. Turn that expensive bag over and look past the marketing buzzwords like ancestral or wild. Look at the first 4 ingredients. If you see corn, wheat, soy, or heavy doses of citric acid and vegetable fats in those top slots, you aren't feeding a noble carnivore, you are funding a corporate profit margin. German Shepherds are a classic deep-chested breed. Their rib cage is long, narrow, and deep, which means their stomach doesn't sit snugly in a tight abdominal pocket like a human's or a bulldog's. It hangs loosely inside their torso like a heavy hammock. When you dump a massive bowl of dry, carbohydrate-heavy kibble into that hammock, a horrific chain reaction begins. These commercial kibbles act exactly like a high-density industrial sponge. The moment they hit the dog's stomach acid and water, they don't dissolve smoothly, they swell aggressively. They expand to twice their original size, creating a dense, fermenting mass of wet mush that generates a massive, rapid buildup of trapped gas. The multi-billion-dollar pet food cartels know exactly how these cheap grain-stuffed formulas behave when they ferment inside a deep-chested anatomy. They know it creates a volatile, gas-producing environment. But do they put a bold warning on the packaging? Absolutely not. Why would they disrupt their supply chain? If your dog's stomach expands like an overinflated tire, it's not their legal liability. They've already cashed your check at the grocery store, and you bought the illusion of health while feeding your dog the chemical catalyst for a structural disaster. But the food is only half the trap. The industry needed a way to monetize how you serve that food, and that's where they engineered one of the most profitable, lethal scams in the entire pet accessory market, the elevated feeding bowl. Walk into any premium pet boutique in the US or the UK, and a sales clerk will look you in the eye with a straight face and say, "Oh, you have a large breed? You absolutely need an elevated feeder. It stops them from gulping, prevents gas, and protects their neck spine." It sounds logical, it sounds like common sense, except it is a scientifically proven death sentence. A massive multi-year epidemiological study conducted by Purdue University tracked large and giant breed dogs to identify the exact environmental triggers for bloat. What they discovered sent shockwaves through the veterinarian community, and it should have pulled every single raised bowl off retail shelves instantly.
The data proved that feeding a deep-chested dog from an elevated bowl does not decrease the risk of bloat. It increases the risk of gastric torsion by over 110%. By lifting that bowl off the ground, you are more than doubling the mathematical chances of your dog dying an agonizing death. Think about the sheer hypocrisy of that. The very product marketed to protect large dogs is the exact tool that accelerates their killing. When a German Shepherd eats naturally from the ground, the way nature engineered their skeletal and digestive tract to function for thousands of years, their physical anatomy forces them to swallow at a downward angle that naturally vents air back out of the esophagus. The moment you lift that food up to chest height on a trendy metal stand, you completely alter their physical alignment. They stop chewing properly, they begin to gulp, inhaling massive pockets of atmospheric air with every single mouthful. The retail executives know this study exists. It is public record. But take a look at the shelves of your local pet superstore today. Those raised bamboo and wrought iron stands are still sitting right there in the prime display aisle because selling an aesthetic, high-margin piece of plastic is infinitely more important to a retail corporation than whether or not your dog suffocates on his own blood supply next month. It is pure, unfiltered corporate greed wrapped up in the guise of luxury pet care. So what happens when the fermenting corporate food and the trendy elevated bowl combine? Let's talk about the physical horror of what happens when that stomach actually twists, stripped of all the polite medical jargon vets use to soften the blow. Your dog is sitting on the floor with a stomach packed with heavy, expanding kibble and trapped, swallowed atmospheric air. It is dead weight, over-distended, and swinging like a massive pendulum inside his deep, narrow chest cavity. Now your dog does something completely normal. He jumps off the couch, he rolls on his back to scratch himself, he runs suddenly to the front door because the mailman arrived. With one sharp, sudden physical movement, the physics of that heavy, gas-filled pendulum shift. The stomach swings too far, loses its equilibrium, and flips completely on its axis. Imagine taking a plastic bag filled with heavy, wet sand, holding both ends and twisting it. That is exactly what happens inside your dog's torso. The stomach rotates up to 360 degrees. Instantly, the entrance from the throat and the exit to the intestines are completely twisted shut. The stomach is now a completely sealed, claustrophobic vault of fermenting gas. Now the real nightmare begins. The gas has absolutely nowhere to escape. The stomach continues to expand like a balloon inside a locked room, swelling larger and larger by the minute. As it inflates, it begins to physically crush the vena cava, the primary, massive blood vessel that returns blood from the entire lower half of the body back to the heart. Blood flow is cut off. Your dog's blood pressure instantly collapses into extreme toxic shock. The stomach wall, completely starved of oxygenated blood, begins to turn black and die. The spleen's blood supply is severed, causing it to congest and twist along with the stomach. Your dog is literally rotting and suffocating from the inside out while sitting completely conscious on your living room rug, looking at you for help.
And this is the exact moment where the financial cartel of the emergency veterinary system steps in to exploit your grief. You notice your dog is pacing restlessly. He's drooling excessively, thick ropes of saliva hanging from his jaws. He is desperately trying to throw up, but nothing comes out except a small puddle of white foam because the entrance to his stomach is literally knotted shut. His abdomen is visibly swelling, taut and hard as a basketball when you tap it. You throw him into the back of your car, your heart hammering against your ribs, and you break every traffic law to get to the nearest 24-hour emergency clinic. The emergency vet takes one look at the distended stomach, confirms it's a classic GDV, and wheels him into the back. But before a surgeon picks up a single scalpel, before they administer a single life-saving sedative, the receptionist walks into the waiting room with a clipboard and an itemized financial estimate. They don't ask you how much you love your dog. They don't offer a word of emotional support. They present an invoice. In the United States, that emergency surgery bill runs anywhere from $6,000 to $12,000.
In the United Kingdom, it sits between 4,000 and 8,000 pounds. Then comes the cold, transactional, emotional extortion. We need a 50% non-refundable deposit right now on a credit card before we can open him up. If you cannot clear this payment immediately, your options are to sign over legal ownership of your dog to this clinic or sign this authorization form to humanely euthanize him right now to prevent further suffering. They know you are completely vulnerable. They know you are crying, terrified, emotionally compromised, and willing to bankrupt yourself to save a family member. They have built an entire corporate emergency business model around that exact emotional vulnerability. And even if you max out your credit cards and pay the deposit, the survival rate after the stomach twist is a brutal coin flip. If the tissue has been starved of blood long enough to die, your dog will flatline from toxic reperfusion failure on the operating table anyway. All because nobody had the integrity to tell you how easily this could have been prevented at home. If you own a German Shepherd, you need to stop listening to pet store marketing and start enforcing the non-negotiable laws of structural survival. First, take that expensive elevated feeding bowl stand and throw it directly into the trash. Feed your German Shepherd flat on the floor, or use a heavy, wide, slow feeder bowl placed directly on the ground. This forces them into a natural, lowered head posture that prevents them from inhaling large pockets of air while they eat. Second, enforce a strict 2-hour total lockdown around mealtimes. Your dog should be locked in a crate or resting quietly for 1 full hour before they eat, and at least 2 full hours after they eat. No running, no jumping off furniture, no backyard fetch, and no rough playing. You must let that food digest and settle before you allow any physical movement that could cause that stomach to swing. Third, ditch the cheap filler diets. Stop buying kibbles where the primary ingredients are grains and corn byproducts that expand like foam inside the gut. Move to a high-density, meat-first diet, and if you must feed dry kibble, hydrate it completely with warm water or bone broth for 20 minutes before serving, so it finishes expanding inside the bowl rather than inside your dog. Finally, if your dog is still young and going in for a routine spay or neuter surgery, pay the extra fee for a preventive gastropexy. The surgeon will physically tack the outer wall of the stomach directly to the abdominal rib line. It takes 15 extra minutes, but it creates a permanent internal anchor that makes it physically impossible for the stomach to ever twist on its axis, completely neutralizing the threat of a fatal torsion. The industry wants you to stay uneducated, so you keep buying their cheap grain bags. The retail boutiques want you to keep buying their stylish raised furniture, and the emergency clinics are waiting patiently for you to roll up to their doors at 2 o'clock in the morning with a dying animal. Break the chain of ignorance. Take control of your dog's daily routine, because the industry isn't coming to save him. You are the only defense your German Shepherd has against a completely preventable death.